Everybody knows about Diamond and Littlefoot and all these animals I show all the time. But what if I told you I've been keeping secrets? Today I'm going to show you the 5 coolest reptiles that I've been kind of keeping a secret. You don't know I have. My name's Adam. They all don't have names. You're watching Wickens Wicked Reptiles. Stick around. I'm very lucky to have quite a few species, and basically all my dream species I now have. But I want to show you the ones that I don't really show on the channel that much. I'll tell you why they're amazing and why I don't show you them very often. Now what we've got here is a carpet chameleon. Now this carpet chameleon is in heavy shed right now. I didn't realize that until we were going to film the video today, but she's going to be the easiest one to film with. So that's why we chose her. It's a female carpet chameleon, and carpet chameleons are from Madagascar. So this means that they're from that subcontinent. Well, I mean, it's a country that's an island on the continent of Africa. So they're very unique. They don't look like a lot of other chameleons, except for the ones that are from, well, Madagascar. Now what's really cool is this was the first chameleon that I found in Madagascar. The first one that we found was a carpet chameleon, and I fell in love immediately. Now I knew these existed, right? I watched Frank Payne's channel. I know that they're becoming more popular. They were in a video last week or the week before, whenever this video comes out. And this one here is a wild-caught individual. And that's the problem with carpet chameleons, is carpet chameleons oftentimes are going to be wild-caught, and it's almost always better to get captive bred animals no matter the species, especially fragile species like carpet chameleons. And the reason I did this is because there's really not that many available in Canada, and I want to be one of the guys that starts to breed them and produce captive babies here in Canada. They're much smaller chameleons than what you might be used to. They're not even close to the size of a panther, veiled Jackson's chameleon, certainly not a Parsons chameleon. These guys are much smaller, and one of my favorite species that I've ever got to work with. I love these animals. I don't have a name for this girl right here, but of course she's gonna not change color, but I mean, realistically, that's what it is. And they don't change color like, oh, they're blue because they touch blue sunglasses, and then they're red because they touch red sunglasses. We've all seen that. That's fake. It's not a real thing. But what they do is depending on their mood, breeding season, temperature fluctuations, they can get much brighter or darker. They always have those colors in them. Just sometimes they get so dark, you don't see the purples. Like right now, you don't really see a lot of purples, where here you do. Number 4, my Rainbow Boa. Now, Brazilian Rainbow Boas have always been on the bucket list, obviously. Rainbow Boas have these oranges and reds and peach tones, along with the blacks and browns, and they're darker colors, so they're one of the coolest species that there ever has been, and perhaps the most colorful and beautiful non-venomous snake in the entire world. Burmese pythons are big and make a lot of noise. Now, the criteria for this is I've only shown these animals in one video or less, because I know I've shown this animal here, but if you missed the video, you didn't know. In the Brazilian Rainbow Boa, I've actually never shown, I've only talked about. So here she is, or she. The guy who told me she's a she. Anyway, this animal might be small now, but she's gonna grow up to be about 5 foot long, somewhere around there, give or take a foot on either end. They become pretty robust. Not big enough that they'll hurt you, but big enough that they're not going to be as fragile as something like, I don't know, a rosy boa or a really small colubrid. And that's another thing I love about them, is they're really easy to handle, and they're actually pretty handleable. Come here, buddy. Also, they're not going to stress out as easily as that carpet chameleon, which I went and put back just because she was getting obviously very stressed out, and I don't want that to happen. Some animals are prone to dying from stress, and carpet chameleons are one. Rainbow boas aren't. Brazilian rainbow boas are very robust, and that's why they're one of my favorites, like I said before. Also, the coloration, they eat really easily, but this is something to take into consideration, because a Brazilian rainbow boa needs high humidity. Think about where they're from. Brazil, in areas like that, in rainforests, where the ground is perma-wet. It's always wet. I've been to similar areas in Central America, and let me tell you, it doesn't dry out there. So you need to make sure that your animal has that type of environment inside their enclosure. Something like a 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot enclosure, something that's gonna hold humidity well, like a PVC, I definitely recommend. Number 3, something that I almost never talk about, Machlet's pythons. Now I have a Machlet's python. Thanks, All Canadian Reptile Girl. You can see here I'm holding her big one. This is Hobbs, and Hobbs made some babies, and I got one of them. Annalise is just like, hey, here you go. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it, which is amazing. I think Machlet's pythons are going to gain popularity because they're pretty big. This is an animal that's not jet black, but it's pretty darn dark. And these are very popular animals always, right? Very dark animals, seem to be very popular. These guys are gonna grow 7 foot, maybe bigger. This is a semi-arboreal animal, python species that's gonna come from parts of Australia and Indonesia. So they come from that part of the Southeast Asia and Australia, which is a similar area, a lot of stuff because they used to be touching at one point. So you see, blue-tongued skinks from the same area as frilled dragons, that type of idea. So these guys, I think, are cool because they don't need the craziest temperature or humidity. They're actually really, really robust. So these animals don't need specifics, like say a carpet chameleon, where if a carpet chameleon doesn't get that, they might die pretty easily, especially the ones that are not captive bred. Macklats are a little bit more robust, and they have bigger temperature fluctuations in the wild, which makes it easier for you. Now these guys are a little bit cantankerous. As babies is what I mean. They're cantankerous as babies. If you don't work with them, they'll be cantankerous adults, and you don't want that. These are big, powerful snakes. If they were to bite you, it would definitely hurt. But from what I understand, Hobbs has never bit Annalise. The animal that I have tries to bite me constantly. Well, we're getting better at it, actually. This animal's growing well and is getting much easier to handle. But I'll tell you, when we first started working with this animal, gosh golly, it would not stop striking when I brought it out of the enclosure. So now we're really working on it, getting better, and by the time this animal is 3 or 4 foot, I'm hoping that it's an animal you can just pull out, I can use in videos. But of course, they're a little bit more squirmy. Arboreal snakes in general kind of are, but either way, Macklats pythons are awesome. This one's name is Pittsburgh, actually, so this one has a name. Absolutely love this animal. Number 2, Pablo. Pablo is a blood red pied het anery het scaleless corn snake. I got 3 of them. I'm so excited. I named them all after characters from Narcos. By the way, they're all a little bit different looking. The male is full grown, the females are just growing up just a little bit. So I can't wait to start a breeding project with them, of course. But I haven't shown them because they're upstairs. I put them in my office because at the time there was no quarantine space down here. So they were quarantining upstairs. Now I've got lots of room down here. I just haven't moved them down yet. So they're all going to get their own enclosures in the next room. It's a whole project that involves that enclosure and emptying out the enclosure. Like, it's a whole thing. But either way, maybe hit subscribe and you can learn what I'm talking about next week or the week after. Either way, I love pied animals. I think they're amazing. And these are obviously not the showy pieds that you see with things like ball pythons, but that doesn't mean that they're not amazing. And in fact, some of the females, the 2 females, I guess, they're a little bit more pied than the male. And when they make babies, you're gonna get more and more pied, and then you breed the pieds back to things that are pieder, have higher whites is what I'm trying to say here. Either way, I think that it's really cool. If red's my favorite color, pied is my favorite morph in most animals. I think that it's really cool, and it's a blood red pied, which I think is its own thing. And then it's het anery, which means that it could, anery, so anerythristic, and then also scaleless. So imagine if you got a blood red pied anery scaleless. That would be freaking wild. And before you give me any crap, I think that scaleless colubrids, for the most part, especially corn snakes, do really, really well. Scaleless ball pythons, scaleless bearded dragons are not the same thing. It is not the same thing at all. I agree those are bad. I don't like them, but I do think corn snakes that are scaleless do really well and have 0 complications most of the time, as long as you're giving them proper care. Okay, number 1. Carpet pythons. I've never shown these, never alluded to it, never talked about it. I have a pair of carpet pythons now. Now, carpet pythons are maybe some of the most beautiful animals in the world. I mean, the yellows and blacks and midtones, just such high contrast, which is what I really like. Those big bulldog heads, which house big teeth. Because this is a semi-arboreal snake from Australia and surrounding area, depending on the species, depends on the area that they're from. So they need to eat things like birds. They need big teeth, right? Retics are kind of the same. So they have big teeth, big heads, very strong. The heat pits are very sensitive, but you can train these guys to be really handleable. The male that we got, super duper handleable. I think that they're really fun too because they can get big, but they're not illegal in most places. Some places have an illegality. You can't keep African rock pythons or like some species, right? These guys, there's very few places that they're named on a list unless that list is, over a certain size, because coastals can get up to 9 feet. Erie Jaya is usually 5-ish, maybe a little bit smaller even. So these guys, I would say, I don't know, 5.5, 6 foot. They're not that big, and they don't get that big around. But because they're arboreal, they're really fun. They kind of curl up on things. They really use the perches, and you always see them because they don't really blend into their surroundings. So that's why I like them. And they're really active. And these guys are breeding. So hopefully we can make some babies. That'd be pretty cool. So there you go. Those are the 5 secret reptiles I've never really told you about. Let me know. I could do a part 2. I have so freaking many of them, it seems like. I'm very lucky to be in a position where people just give me snakes and stuff. So anyway, with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. If you want to see different type of videos, if you have video ideas, let me know in the comment section. It's where I get all the ideas. And hit the like and subscribe button while you're down there. Let's make 2024 a great year. Let's really grow and be able to do a lot more content. And if you want to be part of the Patreon committee, club, group, thanks so much. Appreciate you. For as little as $1 a month, you get discounts on merch, videos early, maybe you get a holiday card in the mail. I don't know. All that for as little as $1 or less or more. $1 or more. Anyway, I do videos on Mondays and Thursdays. I'll see you in the next one.